Today we're going diving, but don't worry, we're not trying out for the Olympic diving team. We're going diving in the coral reefs off the Florida Keys. Hi, I'm Kris. Thanks for joining me today on Exploring Florida. You know, every year more and more people discover the color and the beauty of the corals, the fish, and the invertebrates that live in the shallow warm waters off the Florida Keys. And as they do, scientists are becoming increasingly concerned over the future of the reef track, whether it can survive the onslaught of man. I'm here at the Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary office, and in a few minutes I'm going to find Bunn, the sanctuary manager, and he's going to take me offshore into the federal waters to explore the reef. So grab your snorkeling gear and stay with me.
Portions of the production costs for exploring Florida are provided by the Lely Development Corporation. Environmentally sensitive neighbors in Southwest Florida's building industry since 1964. Lely is proud to bring Exploring Florida to public television.
Hey, Kris, welcome aboard, guy.
Thanks.
Glad to have you at the Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary.
It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. Ready to go out and see some things?
Yeah, what are we going to do today?
All right, want to introduce you first to Officer Davis. He's going to be our escort, take us out, and we're going to head on out and see exactly what kind of activities we've got going on in sanctuary waters.
You get a lot of people that visit the sanctuary?
We really do. They're talking estimates of around 1.5 million per year that visit the area out here. Divers, sailors, snorkelers, fishermen, you name it.
That's actually people out on the water, not that come to the land-based
facilities.
facilities.
That's actually people that have made it offshore into the waters out there. In fact, we've been told that even though this area is only 1/10 the size of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, we get 10 times the amount of visitation.
Wow.
And of course we have other activities, commercial fishing, we've got lobstering, and there's just a wide variety of uses of the living marine resources out here besides diving itself.
Wow. See, some boats are already on their way in and out. Well, that's
Yeah,
one of your
got
boats there,
a little bit
isn't
of
it?
traffic, right? It looks like one of our officer boats coming in now.
You have a number of law enforcement people out here?
Yes, we do. Officer Jackson. Yeah, we've got presently at our office now in the Key Largo Sanctuary, we have 4 sanctuary patrol officers, and nice situation. It's a cooperative effort between the state and the federal government. These officers are Department of Natural Resource employees for the state, and they have both state authorities and then cross-deputized to have the federal authorities as well. And then we also work very closely with the United States Coast Guard, with the Florida Marine Patrol, and a lot of those organizations are cross-deputized to be able to do some of the federal enforcement work for us out there as well.
So that is a multi-agency undertaking then.
It absolutely is, and it's become much more important because now they have designated the new Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, which is going to encompass the entire Florida reef track. We're talking nearly 2,800 square nautical miles, and so in a situation like that, we have to have Key Largo's officers, Luke Key's officers, and any other enforcement agency that will interact and work with us to help monitor and protect the living marine resources out here that we all care about.
Okay, well, you say we're heading out to, what, a lighthouse first?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is run through the southern end of Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary, then head up to what is right now the oldest operating lighthouse in the continental U.S. It's Kris Fort Light. So we'll go up. Kris Fort Reef is a real popular reef amongst the divers, skin divers as well as scuba divers, and get you out there on the light and let you see what we've got.
Okay, well, let's head out there then.
All right. Watch your step there, Kris.
Yeah, we made it to the top, huh? Whoa, check that out. Woo, look at that.
Welcome to the top of the Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary. What do you think?
Thanks. It's, boy, that's spectacular. Holy cow, look at all the coral reef down there.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, you can see for forever up here.
Yeah.
Where are we?
We're at Kris Fort Light, which is at the northernmost end of the Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary. And then, of course, the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary is now designated, and it actually encompasses a little bit of the offshore area of Biscayne National Park, which is Key Largo's northernmost boundary. And then ashore here, you're looking at Key Largo, the island of Key Largo.
So the national park is over that way, and Pennicamp is down this way, right?
Right, inshore of us. John Pennicamp Coral Reef State Park commences ashore and moves offshore out to 3 nautical miles. And then Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary picks up there, runs through this larger part of the coral reef area and out to the 300-foot isobath offshore.
And how far out are we right now?
We're approximately 6 miles.
So we're
from shore.
inside of the National Marine Sanctuary.
Yes.
And how much farther to the 300-foot isobath line is it?
Of course, it
meanders?
contours and meanders due to the Gulf Stream, but I would say right here we've probably got another 2 miles.
Okay, and then the sanctuary actually goes, the majority of it goes that way then, right?
Right, right.
How far?
You're talking about approximately a 20-mile length on Key Largo's National Marine Sanctuary, encompassing over 100 square nautical miles. And then the newly designated Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, really the entire Florida Keys, over 200 miles in length, 2,800 square nautical miles, we're going to have to start dealing with and beginning to manage.
You know, when I look out here, all I see, quite frankly, is water. I didn't expect to see a whole lot more. But I guess the question comes up is, how do you manage this? There's not much to manage on the surface. It's underwater, I guess, that your work really begins.
Right, right. It's a tough job. There's an awful lot to consider. A big part of it really takes place before you get out here. I know you think managing this and this locale means personnel, officers, scientists, and whatnot. It does that, but it also means working ashore with all the various user groups. We have a nice education department that works very strongly with schools, universities, civic organizations. They're developing brochures, pamphlets, posters, videos, educational materials to assist all the various users, working with charter boat captains. In fact, we have meetings with them and get ideas from them. Charter boat captains told us they've got a lot of foreigners coming in, a language barrier. They really wanted to stress, do not touch or stand on the corals. They gave us the idea to come up with a number of brochures and pamphlets that in 6 different languages explain, do not touch the corals. So
interesting management
big
issue to
part
deal
of
with.
it, yeah, big part of it is education. Try and get information to all the various folks before they get out here.
What are we going to do next?
Well, we're going to hook up with John Hallis. He's our biologist for the Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary, and I think he's going to get you wet and let you see the underside of what's going on here.
Well, John, it's a beautiful day, I know that, but whereabouts are we and what are we going to be doing here?
Yeah, Kris, this area is about 3.5 miles offshore of Rodriguez Key or Key Largo, which is right back in this area here.
There.
So we're just into the Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary inner boundary. And we're on a place that did not have a name until about 4 years ago, and we now call it Algae Reef. And it's a place that algae has inundated the soft corals, the sea whips and the sea fans. And this, we first found out about this in 1989, and a friend of mine, biologist, called me that was in this area, an area he dives quite a bit normally, and he came back and this one particular day he saw a lot of algae growing on the sea fan. So he called me up, I came out to take a look at it, and I'd never seen anything quite like that. It was kind of a rough day, and some of the algae filaments had broken off and were suspended in the water. It was kind of gathered up on the bottom also.
Some sort of an indicator of some problem, I take
Right,
it, huh?
yeah, it's something, and I've been, as you know, diving on these reefs for a number of years. I hadn't seen anything quite like this.
Good, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we get our stuff on and stop talking and start looking.
Okay, we'll do that. Just some of the things we can see down there is this thermograph. Take a look at that, go over to the area where we drilled the wells, and we have a capped PVC pipe that we can draw water at any time we want for analyzing. We've got water quality people with auto analyzers at the National Undersea Research Center in Key Largo looking at that. Also researchers from FIU that help us examine that water that we sample.
Yeah, it's a big operation, but I'm ready to get wet.
Okay, let's
All
do
right.
it then.
Okay.
It's Kris, right there. Let's get water depth is 12, 15 feet. we see some high coral ridges, a lot of nice hard corals, but we're going to see on the soft corals a lot of mortality. Over the years now we've lost a lot of the sea fans and the sea whips. You'll see just the skeleton, the dead skeleton of this, and probably some of this Lyngby algae. We're here in January now is not the prime time that we see it, so it goes sort of in remission during this time. When we get the warmer water back during the summer, we'll begin to see more of it.
Well, how do you go about studying this? I mean, it's a lot more difficult to work underwater and even to do research because you don't have all the advantages you have of being on dry land. You can reach up and get something or stop and take a break. What do you do down there to collect the data that's going to help you figure out what's wrong?
Yeah, that's true, Chris. And to collect the data, I've got a number of photographs that I periodically photograph, both still and video photography. Particularly, I try to rephotograph the same area and look at that change over time. That's one way we do it. We're trying to, we've got a thermograph down there, a temperature recorder that is down there continuously, so we can look throughout the year at the temperature pattern that we have, see if we can relate to that, because we do see a lot more of it during the summer, and temperature generally is an indicator of the reason that we see more then. But nutrients, we think, may be a prime cause of this, and we're currently investigating the possibility of groundwater seepage, where we're getting water moving up through the bottom. We do know the geology of the Keys, that the possibility of water traveling laterally related to rainfall on land, tidal. We get tidal pumping, high tide and low tide. And we also know that nutrients on land may get into the water column, either from runoff, which I doubt that that's the reason because it's in such a small area.
Yeah, we're pretty far offshore for runoff to focus in on this one spot.
That's right. So groundwater intrusion, though, is something where water could get into the subterranean part of the bottom, could travel in almost like a conduit into this one area and come up.
Does any of this nutrient or possible excess nutrient, is that affecting the hard corals at all? Or is it just the soft so far?
No, we have not seen any effect on the hard corals, luckily. Unfortunately, as I said, the soft corals are suffering. They're a little faster growing and have a better potential to come back. But,
are they more sensitive perhaps than a hard coral?
Possibly the mucus covering over a hard coral can keep the algae from attaching. We do have, though, another species of coral here we call the black band disease. Formidium coralictum is the scientific name. And we have seen, summer before last, almost a bloom of this on a number of the coral heads. And this does go right to the hard corals, destroys the tissue, and you can have, in one season, you can have 100 years of coral growth destroyed. And we saw a lot of that summer before last. This past summer, we didn't see as much, so it's got a lot of questions answered there. There is
more questions and answers right now.
That's right. But we do. There are an investigator, Laurie Richardson from Florida International University, that is looking at the physiology of the blue-green algae growth here. She has a graduate student that's working directly on the black band disease. So we're focusing a number of scientists in here to try to help figure out what's going on.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah. Where are we going to go next?
We're going to Key Largo Dry Rocks next.
Okay, well, let's get out of the water and get geared up for that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, John, well, where are we now?
Yeah, we just pulled up here to Key Largo Dry Rocks, Chris. We're attached to one of the mooring buoys here, and this is one of the more popular sites in Key Largo for diving and snorkeling, particularly snorkeling. This is the location of the Kris statue. Plus, there's a lot of nice elkhorn coral growing here, quite shallow.
And we
close
got
to the surface.
plenty of
There's a
company
boat
too, I
coming,
see. Yeah.
Attaching right now to a mooring buoy, one of the larger commercial snorkel boats primarily. Chris, let's get our gear on and let me take you down and show you the beauty of our reef and some of the concerns that we have.
Okay, sounds better than sitting on the boat, I'll tell you that. These mooring buoys are pretty nice. It beats, I guess, having an anchor, huh?
It sure does. And this is something that we started here in Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary in 1980 when I first started formulating the idea to try to do something about the anchor damage that was occurring. Even prior to that, I was involved in the sport diving community, and we all began to recognize that we were doing damage with our anchors. And when I started working with the Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary in 1980, I had a chance to try to do something about this. And I got with the U.S. Geological Survey. I had friends there, Harold Hudson, Dan Robin, and Gene Shin, use their expertise and equipment in their geological sampling to core into the bedrock and cement an eye bolt or a stainless steel eye into the bottom that we could then shackle a mooring buoy line onto up to the buoy.
People have to use them, or are they just recommended to use?
No, it's people are not allowed to anchor in the coral. If buoys are available, we strongly recommend that you use the buoys, and there's no way you'll be anchored in the coral. If there's a sandy area, you are allowed to anchor, but you can't let your anchor drag up into the coral when you do that.
Well, when people are in the water, what rules are there that they have to follow? I know from what I've read and what I've heard, you're really not supposed to be even touching the corals anymore, are you?
That's right. Within the sanctuary, you're not allowed to damage or injure the corals. I mean, you're not allowed to collect them, but even damage them from an anchor, from standing up on them or kicking them, this is not allowed. Boat groundings also are another thing that we've had a lot of problems with, particularly on this reef.
Well, when a piece of coral breaks off, okay, it falls down, will that piece die, or will it continue to grow? Can it start a new piece? Or a new head of coral, or a finger or something?
It depends. We've got, just in broad terms, two major categories of hard corals. We have the branching corals and then what we call the massive corals. And the branching corals tend to grow much faster, 8 to 10 centimeters a year. They can increase in linear growth, whereas a massive coral, such as a star coral or brain coral, will increase only as much as 1 centimeter in diameter per year. So to get a massive coral head that's 1 meter across, we're looking at 100 years to get a coral to that size, whereas a branching coral may, in 10 or 15 years, be able to grow to that size. So if we break off the branching corals, if the branch lodges somewhere where it's not moved around by the wave action, sometimes it can continue to grow. It can kind of fuse itself into the bottom. And in fact, sometimes hurricanes tend to break and spread them around, and we actually get propagation from that.
So this is the large brain coral here that's right near the Christ statue, right?
That's right. That's Copophilia is the genus name, and it's one of the largest of the brain corals. And
aptly named too, from,
right,
from the looks of it.
That's right. The convolutions in it looks just like the human brain. There are several other species, about 4 that we have in this area, but this one, as you can see, is quite large. It looks like it could be 10 feet in diameter or so, and representing several hundred years of growth. And it's right here in this area where there's been quite a bit of diver activity, yet it's intact.
This is the largest one that you know of?
Not the largest, but it ranks up there in the upper end of that spectrum. And right over here, we're getting into the elkhorn coral, and you can see here the first thing that we're looking at is in good shape, relatively intact. But right over in this area, we've got the same species of coral that is broken, and it's difficult to tell at this stage what did that, whether or not a diver got into this. It's unlikely that somebody's anchor drug through here. In the old days, before we had mooring buoys, we might suspect that.
Is it
grounding, it's
pretty
much
fragile?
like a grounding. It's very fragile. It doesn't take that much to break it. And just looking at the break itself, the secondary algae that you see in the white area hasn't been there that long. I would say this
like
was
that, huh?
within the last 10 days that this occurred.
Oh, that recent, huh?
That's right.
Wow. What's that coral there? It looks sort of like looks like a bunch of columns.
That's called a pillar coral, and aptly named as it looks like pillars growing up. It's a fairly uncommon coral. We don't see that many here, and it's separate sexed, and that's probably one reason that if you have a male colony, often the other corals are hermaphroditic. There's a mixture, it goes both ways. But this particular one does not have the opportunity to propagate like some of the others, so I think that's one of the reasons we don't see as many. You can see the polyps are expanding. It's flowery looking, and most corals aren't expanded like that during the day. At night they come out and do their feeding, but this particular coral, the polyps are expanding.
Now by expanded, you mean these are animals too, by the way, that maybe
that's
some
right.
people don't understand.
Yeah,
and the expansion is the animal sticking out of the hard part of the shell.
That's right.
Not a shell, but it's
hard
limestone coating. Yeah.
Skeleton that essentially is added onto yearly, and then the live polyps. It's called a colonial animal because there are many organisms that form one colony. This other coral, also a mounding coral, it's called star coral, and on this particular reef this last summer we had coral spawning documentation. This occurs just during like a 3-day period during the summer. It's related to the moon phase, and it was seen here last summer as well as in Lou Key in the Florida Keys. And first time that I know that's been documented here in the Keys.
One coral I recognize because I've been zapped by it a few times.
A lot of fire coral in this area, and it is found quite often up on top of the ridges like we have right here. And if you look down on it, it has a convoluted pattern, sort of a rusty orangish red color. And this is actually a false coral. It's not the true hard coral. It's in a Millipora is the genus. And it actually has stinging cells much like the jellyfish. In fact, it's more closely related to the jellyfish and Portuguese man-o-war and having these stinging nematocysts.
All you gotta do is rub up against it once, yeah.
You definitely want to stay away from them.
Yeah, because it'll leave you sort of like a bee sting, I guess, type of a feeling.
And the other coral over here, it's a mounding coral. The genus name is Siderastria. And you see this mat that is slightly actually covering over the top as we peel back a little bit of that. It's called zoanthid. Palithoa is the other name for it, and it's again a colonial, not quite a soft coral, but what we call a matte coral. It can actually encrust over the coral, and it's a natural process, but it does kill that portion of the coral off that it grows over.
It's a coral, a type of a coral growing over another type of a coral in it.
Essentially, that's what we have, and that's it's a natural process that we have out here, and I think again a good thing to point out that we have natural things that are one coral killing another coral, and we have to be careful when we add man's influence to this that we don't tip the scale over too much in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it'd be a real shame if we lost this. It's so pretty down here.
It sure is.
John, thanks a lot for showing me around. I'll tell you, it's beautiful down there, and I could spend all day in the water, but I got to go catch up with Alan.
I understand, Chris. It was my pleasure.
A lot of fun out there.
That's
It's
great.
really pretty.
Real nice day.
And,
All right.
John did a good job taking care of me.
Super. Well, now I want to bring you on, we're going to show you the National Undersea Research Center's Key Largo facility. Again, it's another one of those cooperative agreements. We've got University of North Carolina at Wilmington has a cooperative agreement with NOAA. They've set up a facility down here. They're doing scientific day trips, studies offshore in the sanctuary. They're putting underwater habitat in this coming spring. We hope that goes well.
You mean a place where divers will live underwater?
Actually move on board, stay on board and live under the water. It's going to be in about 60 feet of water. They'd stay for about a week, 10 days at a time. And the facility right now is set up with a variety of different things. They're doing some water sampling, some transects.
Okay, where are these water samples from in here?
All right, they've done some transects across the Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary and a few beyond, actually. And this is Sarah. She's been doing a wide variety of work for NERC. And it's important for them, of course, as you know, there are a number of qualities and specific conditions that the corals have to have just in the right amounts to do what they need to do. Of course, you've got to have the right visibility and water clarity, some nutrients, but you don't want to overdo it with it. Right amount of light concentration making its way into the coral polyps. So with the warm water of the Gulf Stream and all, and that flushing current that we have called the Gulf Stream out there, works quite well for us. So what they've done is they've got a number of different transects, and Sarah, for a thesis that she's doing right now, and paper she's putting together, is taking samples basically from the shoreline off through the grass flats, on beyond, and across the coral reef itself. Yeah, they're getting some information right now that is putting together a real fine database. There just has not been much up until now on the water quality. And in fact, EPA has been mandated to come on board and help NOAA. Some of the particular equipment and a little bit of the money involved in doing some of the water quality studies is from EPA.
What's this stuff here? Nitrox.
Nitrox. They've got a cascade system and a compressor set up which will mix nitrogen, oxygen in the right combination, put it in a bottle for us, and in essence, on the scientific side, enables us to get about twice the bottom time in some of our efforts offshore.
So divers can get more done,
obviously. Get a lot more bang for the buck in the time you're in. You spend a lot of time in that water anyway, and it's tough sometimes to be limited by your air tables, and so this helps out, but you've got to be careful with it, and they go through some special training and all to get to use it. Well, what do you think so far?
I'm impressed, I tell you. You got quite an operation going on down here. A lot of activity, too. I mean, there's always something going on.
Yeah, there really is always something.
What do you think about the future of Key Largo, or really the whole Florida Keys Sanctuary program?
Well, I think it's going the right direction. I think we're beginning with this new proposal in all of the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. We get our management plan in effect. We get all the cooperative efforts, facilities like this, and all the other organizations coming on board with us. We'll have a good shot at improving possibly our management and maybe even the quality of the Florida Keys.
Yeah, that's kind of an awesome responsibility when you think that the fact that, you know, probably more people are going to be here next year than last year, as long as the weather holds out, which it probably will. Right. You're having an increasing demand on this resource, and you know, it's very fragile, very delicate.
Yes, it is. It takes our attention day in and day out, and I think we're beginning to put our finger on the pulse, and just hopefully we can maintain that.
And you obviously enjoy your job.
I enjoy it very much, yeah.
You haven't taken a smile off your face since I saw you, so it must be fun. It's a tough duty to be here in the Keys.
I've been here for 2 years. I've been in NOAA for nearly 18, and believe me, I had to kiss a lot of frogs before I got this princess.
This is a princess.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, we're about out of time, but thanks very much for taking the time to show me around. I really appreciate it.
All right, Chris, enjoyed having you and the guys. It was great.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's all the time we have this week on Exploring Florida, but we're going to see you again real soon.
Portions of the production costs for Exploring Florida have been provided by the Lely Development Corporation. Environmentally sensitive neighbors in Southwest Florida's building industry since 1964. Lely is proud to bring Exploring Florida to public television.